The ASB Export Commodity Price Index stabilised over the past week. Now this does follow a run of steady declines over the past few months, so it is very encouraging to finally see some stabilisation in New Zealand dollar terms. However, if we look at the composition, we are seeing that this recent stabilisation is largely due to the weakness we've seen in the New Zealand dollar over the past 2 weeks. The weaker NZ dollar has been offsetting declines in global prices over the past few weeks. Now, what's driving much of the decline in global prices is some correction in lamb prices. These are coming back from very elevated levels. In saying this, we are looking for some stabilisation in both lamb and beef prices over the coming weeks. We are also looking for some stabilisation in dairy prices, although we do acknowledge that there is downside risk to global dairy prices over the rest of this year. Much of this is due to strong production growth we've seen in New Zealand dairy, but also from our offshore competitors. But given the extent that we've seen dairy growth grow over the past year, we've actually been very encouraged to see how well global dairy prices have held up at these levels. We've seen the New Zealand dollar steadily decline overnight, and it's been quite interesting at looking what's driving much of this movement. We've seen some quite broad-based strength in the US dollar overnight, and that's underpinned much of the correction in the New Zealand dollar. Now, what's underpinning this pickup in the US dollar is some more encouraging signs on the USA economy. Over the past few months, we've seen some fairly consistent signs that the recovery is starting to build some momentum in the US. Over the past 6 months, we've seen stronger jobs growth, and this should help underpin stronger consumer spending going forward. In addition, we've seen the housing market finally stabilise in the US, and on top of this, we're seeing still strong confidence from the manufacturing sector, which should continue to help underpin much of the recovery there. Now, much of the catalyst for the recent moves was Federal Chairman Ben Bernanke, who was out overnight, and he acknowledged the more upbeat strength in the US economy. This has seen investor sentiment pick up, and as a result, we've seen some quite broad-based strength in the US dollar, which has helped see the New Zealand dollar unwind from some quite elevated levels. Now, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand will be very encouraged to see this development. Last Thursday's monetary policy statement, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand was not very happy to see the New Zealand dollar remaining at these elevated levels, as they did not think it was justified for New Zealand's fundamentals.